You're the project director and lead designer on the Aliens RPG.
Yep.
That eventually got canceled by Sega. Fergus was in here. He was talking some about that, but does that one hurt too?
Oh yeah, I mean, any of the projects that got canceled hurt. I mean, I would say the thing is that the vast majority of game developers really love what they do. They really love the projects they get to work on, whether it's creating their own worlds and settings and characters or adapting the settings and worlds and characters of an existing intellectual property.
Yeah.
We're very passionate about what we do, and we put literally years of our lives into developing these things. And maybe if we're lucky, on the short end, we work on a project for 6 months and it gets canceled. That's still half a year of your life that's gone. So that's kind of a bummer. When it's something that is a year and a half, 2 years, 2.5 years, that is very frustrating because by that point in time, you've really put a big chunk of time and experience into it. It's also tragic in some ways for junior developers because I have actually met developers who wind up working on, let's say, 3 games that get canceled in a row, and they've been in the industry maybe 6 or 7 years, and they've never finaled a game.
Nothing on the resume.
And they have the nothing shipped, which it's really bad because both for 2 reasons. One is that the experience of shipping a game is very different from the experience of making a game. Finaling a game is its own beast of a thing that's very important to understand. You have to make a lot of very critical decisions in the last few months that you don't have to make earlier in development. And so it's bad for them developing professionally. And I would say it's also bad because their resume doesn't look good. So
yeah, the Fergus, like I said, he was in here talking a little bit about Aliens, but boy, it sure looked like that if it had made it to the end, I mean, it was going to be unlike any other Aliens video game that had ever been made before.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, when it was announced that we were working on an Aliens role-playing game, a lot of people literally couldn't even comprehend it, which seems crazy to me. It seemed like a great fit. As soon as I heard about it, I'm like, oh yeah, I can see it now. I can see exactly how it can be, and it can be a really fun, cool game. But there were a lot of people who were like, that just doesn't even make any sense. I think partially it was, I can't remember when we started working on it relative to Mass Effect, but sci-fi games as RPGs were not necessarily a super big thing outside of Mass Effect at the very least. And specifically the Aliens franchise, people just didn't comprehend, like, how can that possibly be a role-playing game? And so I think there was a struggle there, at least in communicating it to people. But I always thought that the nature of the stories in the Aliens franchise were really about people interacting more than, like, in all these movies, it's about more than just Ripley. It's about Ripley in the midst of a group of people and her sort of emerging as this, sort of de facto leader, the person who has to help pull them through.
Yeah.
And it's about how people either fall apart or they rise up, and those are beautiful character arcs. Whether you're talking about the crew of the Nostromo, this very small crew of people that are dealing with this threat that they can't possibly sort of comprehend and deal with, or you're looking at James Cameron's Colonial Marines and characters like Burke and seeing how those characters change over time. And really for me in a role-playing game, those are the great sort of key things, those key relationships that you can build. And that's what I really wanted to emphasize in the Aliens game we were making.
Did you guys pitch it to Sega, or did they come to you and say, hey, we want something a little different with the Aliens IP? I'm curious how that
I think it was, I can't remember the exact sequence of events, but I think we were already working on Alpha Protocol.
I was going to mention that.
And they had the Aliens IP, and they wanted pitches, and I didn't write the initial pitch. I believe Travis Stout wrote the initial pitch. At that point, I think it was called like Aliens Allmeyer or something like that. And they were interested in it, and then I came on as the director and started shaping where it was going, and yeah.
Man, it's I would have loved to have seen that game. Some sort of prototype in development footage has since hit YouTube.
Yeah, it was kind of sad because actually I shouldn't say that I came on as the project director. More properly, I came on as the lead designer. We didn't have directors at that time at Obsidian, and it only was at the sort of very tail end of the project that I came on as director. In part because of some of the dysfunction we were seeing on the project. The structure of Obsidian prior to that was that we didn't have individual directors. We had leads of each discipline, and then we had an executive producer. The executive producer was mostly responsible for keeping things on schedule, but there wasn't a single person that could just make decisions. So for example, if programming wanted to do something and design didn't want it, there was kind of this back and forth, and it could get sort of stymied and not go anywhere. And the same as like design wants something and animation doesn't think it's worth doing, it doesn't necessarily get done. And at the tail end of Aliens, we were seeing that things were just really having a difficult time coming together. And we had lots of ideas and we had lots of stuff. But I said, I think we need to have directors on projects who are capable of making final decisions when they're contentious. Obviously, no one likes being overruled, but if our goal is to be, really having a vision and a direction to go in, that's something that we need to do.
Was the Aliens game on track, and it was a publisher decision, or was there some trouble on the dev side?
No, there was trouble on the development side. There's some quote from Fergus where he said he felt like it played like a finished game. It did not play like a finished game. There were a lot of problems with area development specifically. That was a big problem. We had some animation problems that we were working through. And yeah, I mean, it still had a lot of issues. Like I said, there's a lot of cool stuff in it, but ultimately we weren't building our areas at a fast enough pace, and there were just some lingering problems though. So even though I was very disappointed by its cancellation, especially because I believe in the last few months we really did. Here's the thing that really bums me out is that the footage that people see on YouTube is actually not the last milestone that we did. We actually did 1 or 2 milestones after that where it got much better looking. Mm-hmm. And it was too little too late, honestly. So like I said, even though I was really disappointed that it got canceled, I get why it was canceled.
You did see it coming. It didn't blindside.
No, I wasn't like, whoa, where did this come from? Because we had taken a long time to make a very small part of the game. So.